In Beverly Hills 90210, Luke Perry was the high school stud Dylan McKay. He drove a motorcycle, he surfed, he wore an earring, and he had lots of relationships. Here's his bad boy character talking to one of his girlfriends, Brenda.
Truth is, I don't know. I loved you more than I ever thought I could love anybody. Maybe that was a problem. It was just too intense for both of us.
By the end of the series in 2000, Perry's brooding character had struggled with alcohol and drug abuse, and he watched his bride get killed. Just last week, Fox announced a revival of the show with most of the original cast members, except Perry, who was busy acting as Archie Andrews' father on the show Riverdale. In that role, he was an overprotective father of the live-action comic book character.
Where'd you sneak off to last night?
You heard that?
Son, I've been hearing you sneak out since you were 8 years old going to Jughead's treehouse.
Perry was born in Mansfield, Ohio, and started out on TV in the 1980s as a teenager in daytime soap operas such as NBC's Another World. Over the years, he acted on TV shows such as Oz and Body of Proof, and in the films Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The Fifth Element. Perry also lent his voice to cartoons such as The Incredible Hulk, Mortal Kombat, Defenders of the Realm, and he even made an animated cameo on The Simpsons, making balloons with Krusty the Clown.
Look, kids. A horsey! And what are you making, Sideshow Luke Perry?
A 19th century carousel.
More recently, Luke Perry filmed a role for Quentin Tarantino's upcoming movie about Charles Manson called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Mandalit Del Barco, NPR News.
This is 90.9 WBUR. Ask your employer to match your gift to WBUR by this Friday, and you could win a trip for two to Holland with Van Gogh Tours. A match is not required for entry, but it is appreciated. Learn more at WBUR.org.
We're funded by you, our listeners, and by Boston University's core curriculum, presenting Every Man for Himself and God Against All, with filmmaker Werner Herzog, March 25th in the Sci Center. Admission is free. A reservation will ensure a ticket at herzogbu.eventbrite.com. In Citizens Bank Wealth Management, which believes that the future you hope for is shaped by the advice you get along the way. Learn more at citizensbank.com/retirement.
Marketplace is supported by Drexel University. Drexel University's academic model prepares visionary leaders to address the challenges of a changing world. More at drexel.edu/ambition can't wait.
President Trump likes to say this about his tariffs.
We're bringing billions and billions of dollars into our treasury right now.
Not so fast, Mr. President. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
You pay attention with so much at stake.
Seas are rising and chronic flooding will be the new normal.
You navigate, you listen, you keep an ear out. You pay attention, and so do we. We tell the stories of our time every day.
In the 26th day of testimony and on the 139th witness, Shahar Tsarnaev wept.
We unearth what would otherwise stay hidden.
There's just a lot of hate in this world, and that day, for that hour, we were humans.
Across the street.
The Red Sox have won the World Series.
And around the globe.
It's here and now.
This is modern love.
This is WBUR's All Things Considered.
This is only a game.
This is On Point.
This is Radio Boston.
On air, online, on demand, and on stage in the heart of Boston.
I'm Jack Lepiars. Welcome to WBUR City Space.
Always looking forward, paying attention, and knowing that your story is one of our stories.
Good morning. I'm Bob Oates.
I'm Lisa Mullins.
I'm Meghna Chakrabarty.
I'm Jeremy Hobson.
This is 90.9 WBUR, Boston.
Hello, welcome. My name is Amy McDonald. I'm the Director of Community Engagement, and I'm in charge of programming this unbelievable space. Let's hope I lived through the year. I'm alive by the end of 2019. This is our first full week of programming, so thank you for coming. Go to our website, wbur.org/events or wbur.org City Space. Look at what's coming up. We have an array of things. We want to think of City Space as the 92nd Street Y of Boston, and the 92nd Street Y of New York is known for just an array of eclectic programs. There are debates and lectures and authors and hip hop and poetry and music and ballet and cooking demonstrations and live podcasts. And that's what City Space is going to be. There's nothing like it in Boston. So look what's coming up and buy tickets and register and be part of this family. Tonight is the beginning of this first full week. We are having a chef series. Thank you, Andy Husbands, for kicking it off, the owner of Smoke Shop. On April 1st, we have Joanne Chang. It's the first Monday of every month. And then on June 3rd, we have Irene Lee. And a little bit aberration is we have Alon Shaya, who's coming in May from New Orleans. But that's just one of many things that we're doing. We also, instead of the Q&A with mics, we have an interactive very intuitive way of asking questions at the end. If Sheryl hasn't exhausted Andy, if you go to your phone and just go to the internet and go to slido.com, and if you type in the code, it will appear afterwards. If I remember, it's hashtag Q920. Oh, there it is. No, there it is. Hashtag Q937. And then that will automatically get you in. And you just type in your question, either a name or anonymously, and it'll go up on the screen. It's a really fun way of seeing what you all want to ask. And that's it. Welcome, Sheryl and Andy.
Okay, so if you look behind me, you know everything about me. I was the food editor of the Boston Globe for a long time, and Andy was a young restaurateur when I was a young reporter, and our paths did not cross because I never did a story on you, but I think I've eaten your food many times at several restaurants. So I'm going to begin with your background. And I wonder, did you go to culinary school or did you just get dropped into a kitchen and start cooking?
A little bit of both. I worked at the Pillar House in 1987.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, so I went to Needham High School. I moved here from Seattle, but I went to Needham High School and got a job. I told my father I wanted to cook, and this is 1987. And there's no role models, no internet, right, at this point. And my father's no son of mine is going to be a fry cook. So he's going, go get a job. So I got a job at the Pillar House, which was awesome.
Was the idea, go get a job and see how much you don't like it?
Yeah, pretty much. And little did he know that I actually loved it. I had a great mentor there. His name was Chef Alan Gibson, really great guy. And he happened to be, had been a professor or a chef at Johnson & Wales. And so he encouraged me to go. He taught me how to stay clean, how to dice an onion. And I went to Johnson & Wales. It was just
Oh,
awesome.
You did go to culinary school?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
I worked in a restaurant, and then I went to Johnson & Wales.
Okay, so what was it the first few weeks like?
Johnson & Wales?
No, in the kitchen as a kid.
Well, the first, I mean,
what were you peeling onions?
Yeah, so before that, I had actually worked at a place called Hazel's Bakery in Needham. You might know this if you're from Needham. And that was working for Ken Mullen and a great guy. I'm going to say some stuff. This is the 80s. So one of the world's meanest pastry chefs I've ever worked for. And he was just grumbly, and I had to be there 4 in the morning. But he taught me how to make bread, and he taught me how to make donuts. And I cleaned a lot of pots and pans. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
So as you're cooking today, do you remember things that he told you back then?
When I make bread, and I don't make much bread, that type of bread at my restaurants now. But yeah, I mean, I remember it because for him, it wasn't necessarily about the recipe. It was about the touch, the feel, and the elasticity.
So when I learned, it was you knead it till it feels like your earlobe.
Yeah, a little bit.
Or a baby's bottom.
Okay.
Okay.
I just recently touched a baby's bottom. So I have 1-year-olds, but before that I never had, so I wouldn't know that.
Two 1-year-olds.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Twin girls. Yes.
Yes. So in 1985, when Chris Schlesinger opened the East Coast Grill, I think it was one of the first live fire restaurants in Boston. And it was a small space in Inman Square, and you could watch Chris grill. Yeah. The grill was so close to the customers, it'd never pass inspection today, probably. And you worked there with your friend Chris Hart.
Yes.
Did you meet Chris there?
No, Chris and I, Hart and Husbands, same homeroom in Needham.
Ah.
So, no, we didn't work there. We worked there about 1992. So after I got out of college. But I also think Todd English was doing live fire at that time too. Mm-hmm. That opened around '85. The original Olives also. But that's Chris and I worked there. Chris Schlesinger was the best to work for.
In one of your books, I think it was Pitmaster, and I'll give a little plug for it. Are you selling it outside? Is it for sale outside?
I'm not selling it outside.
Okay.
And I'd encourage you to buy it online. It's so much cheaper than buying it from me.
Okay. So you talk about Chris Schlesinger having these fabulous 4th of July parties in his house in Westport.
Sure.
So he was raised in Virginia. Was he doing Southern pig roasts and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, so barbecue is my life now, but I can honestly tell you I hadn't really had real pulled pork or a real, like a Memphis-style rib until I worked at the East Coast Grill. It really wasn't that, you didn't find it anywhere. And I grew up in Seattle. We never saw barbecue out there from which we consider barbecue, like a Southern barbecue. But yeah, so Chris really showed me, in fact, I had a huge fight with Chris. One of the bigger fights was he wanted me to work at Jake and Earl's, his Dixie barbecue takeout.
Which was next door?
Right, which was next door, and that was part of my job. I didn't want to do it, and we fought a lot about it. One of the lessons I learned is the owner is always right. So, you know, he made me work there.
And one of the lessons you probably teach today, the owner is always right.
But yeah, so it was really kind of my first kind of seeing barbecue and what it was like.
So what did you grow up on? What was the food at your family dinner?
Well, this is the 70s. My fondest memory is my mother making popovers. You know, the story I tell.
Is she a New Englander?
No, no. Well, she was born and raised in Brooklyn, but her and my father both moved out to Seattle. My father grew up in Needham. You know, one of the stories I like to tell people, and I'm very active with Share Our Strength, which is childhood hunger relief. No Kid Hungry is their hashtag. I was a federally assisted child. We were a single mom for a while, and my mother was very smart, and she made tuna salad and popovers. Such a good filling meal for a young child that is actually pretty cheap, you know, or cost effective, I guess would be the term.
Do you make the popovers now?
Yeah, absolutely. Popovers are the best. I remember also my father making a lot of sauteed zucchini, a lot of mushy sauteed zucchini. I can't stand it.
So I noticed that you lost a lot of weight recently.
Yes.
What are you cooking at home? Not sides of ribs and
no.
Of
lots
pork.
of vegetables, a lot of roasted vegetables. One of my favorite is rutabagas and sweet potato fries, kind of made roasted. Light oil, salt, pepper, hot oven. I eat a lot of vegetables. I kind of flip my diet, so I eat 75% vegetables, and then the rest is split up between carbs and low-fat proteins.
Plant-based, it just keeps coming back, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I feel better when I eat that way. So.
So let's go to your first restaurant, Tremont 647, and then Sister Sorrel came later. You decided to open a restaurant.
Yes.
And did you beg your family for money and then go to a bank and say, I have this much money and would you match it? And what that was 2 years ago.
Yes,
so
and I was,
26
and young enough not to know better, right? You know, Chris's advice to me to open a restaurant was, because I'm like, how do you do it? You know, how do you get the money? And he's like, best thing to do is if you have some family money or some family property, use that and leverage that to open a restaurant. So I walked away with no information because we did not have family money or family property. But that's good advice if you do have that. And I opened this with Chris Hart, my childhood buddy. And
Did he have family property? Or?
No.
Okay.
We hustled it. We went out there and it's a chicken or egg situation where it's hard. You can't get the lease without the money, but you can't get the money without the lease.
Right.
Right? So we went around and we found this great space in the South End, and believe it or not, Tremont 647, where that is now with a Starbucks a block away, was not a space that anybody wanted, and came with a liquor license for $1. So we
You should say how much they are now.
They're 350, 400,000. So we somehow leveraged it. The landlord liked us. We liked the landlord. We kind of got all the pieces moving. But I'll tell you what happened is that we needed $350,000 to open the restaurant. That's more money than I've ever seen in my life at that time. And we raised about $175,000. And we started construction. And halfway through construction, we ran out of money. And the construction people stopped and said, we won't go until we get more money. So I'm in a space, I'm sweeping it every day, and I'm realizing that I'm about to not see my dream come true, and I'm about to owe $175,000, and I'm going to default on a lease. It was a really, really bad situation. Somehow we were able to like kind of get a bridge loan, and Wainwright Bank, which is now Eastern Bank, believed in us and no assets and gave us a $100,000 loan, and we got to the finish line with $5,000 in the bank when we opened up.
So when you opened that first night, were you just sort of in a dream? You must have been exhausted in the first place because you were probably hammering in the wee hours, into the wee hours.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm a guy who kind of just goes for things and then maybe realized I shouldn't have done that, or realized it was a great idea. And this one happened to be a great idea. I don't know, I was full of confidence and full of belief. And you know, the best part about opening a restaurant is the 2 weeks before. Because everything's exciting and there's no problems and you've got solutions. And then you open that door and you have problems.
So you had live fire at Tremont 647.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I remember that. I remember sitting out on the street on a spring night and eating something deliciously charred, and it was really a really lovely place.
Thank you.
So, so that restaurant was open for 21 years, and then Sister Sorrel beside it, 16. And you closed them last year?
Yeah, last April 1st, I believe.
That's a long time. Someone once told me restaurant years are like dog years. It's a long time to keep a restaurant going. What else besides pajama brunch did you do to keep people coming in the door?
Well, we, before the economy dropped, before 2008, we did Taco Tuesdays, $2 Taco Tuesdays, which was incredibly busy and really successful for us. I was hesitant. I didn't want to be too gimmicky, but the pajama brunch, and they were just fun. So I always did things that were fun. We pivoted pretty hard after 2001. We were very cutting edge at the time when we first opened, kind of really tried to keep up with the Joneses and keep doing a lot of creativity. And then I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore, and I wanted to focus more on the neighborhood. And that's really what kept us going. When really awful things happened and when really good things happened in Boston, we would see spikes. So winning of championships, we would see people would come and celebrate, and we would be a neighborhood living room.
You know, people have told me in the restaurant business that if you open a restaurant and you don't have neighbors or you don't have a clientele that's local, when the tourists go home on a day like today, when they're not in town, you're dead.
Yeah, I mean, that can be challenging. You know, you want a little bit of everything, right? You know, I look at my Google Analytics and I want people to be returning and I want new visitors. So you want a little bit of both.
So one of the things I read in your books is that you couldn't take collards off the menu at 647. So tell us how to make them.
Buy my book. It's you know, a lot of food these days is sweet and sour. So it's vinegars and sugars and chilies, and we basically make almost a gastrique, bacon, and then collards.
You have to explain guest streak.
It's like a sweet and sour reduction. It's the base of most things you eat and sauces. So we reduce vinegars and sugars together, and then spices, bacon, and collards. That's a little salt. That's simple.
So, so after you opened the barbecue restaurants, I have the name right here, Smoke Shop BBQ.
Yes.
Before you closed Tremont.
That's correct.
647. So at one time you had three restaurants.
Yes, is that correct? Yeah,
One
that
at
sounds
Fort
about
Point
right.
Channel, and
Yeah.
and then later on you opened another smoke shop in Kendall Square.
After we had closed it, yes.
Okay, so the South End restaurants were neighbors, so you could just go back and forth.
Yes.
You were probably working the line a lot of nights.
Toward the end, in the beginning, yes. Toward the end, not as much. More expediting. So more instead of being the first violinist, I was more.
You should explain the difference between working the line and expediting, and you should also explain why we can peek into a kitchen and we can see a chef standing at a counter and he doesn't look like he's doing anything.
I mean, it's like the first violinist, and then it's the conductor. That's the difference. And it's hard to conduct when you are the first violinist. Often you would see Gordon Hammersley would be back there, but he would also be expediting and kind of watching every plate at the pass where the food comes out. But there's a couple key positions, and that position of watching every plate and watching every ticket and timing everything is a really, really important job.
And that's the expediter.
That's the expediter. So you're just calling tickets and you're kind of just watching everything. It's a big giant game of concentration.
Okay, so when the tickets come into the kitchen, I see them,
hanging,
yes, hanging. Okay, someone slides them up. I want one in my kitchen for my to-do list.
Yes.
So who is facing what it says on the ticket? Is it facing the chef who's on the line, or is it facing the expediter?
Well, these days there's more than one ticket, and in fact, soon it will be no tickets. It will just be a computer screen. Okay. It depends. Different kitchens, different ways. Tremont was all verbal. So, or if you guys ever go to what's the breakfast place down south, Waffle House? No tickets. They just tell the person what it is, and they know. It's magic. So for us, it would be all callbacks: 2 steaks, 1 fish, and a salad. And you'd call it back to me. I hear it, and then we all know what we're doing. And we tell them what's on fire, what's on back, and what's about to come up. So they kind of know. We kind of go through this whole thing. It's a really wild concentration thing while you're dealing with knives and hot stuff. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so so that callback.
Yeah.
Is that where the expression "yes, chef" comes in?
So I'm not. Yes, chef is interesting. I don't like yes chefs, and I don't like we chef, and I don't like yes chef. You're more apt to remember something if you call it back. That's why they go right 130 degrees, and the guy in the military goes right 130 degrees, because they know you're more apt to remember it if you call it back. If you say to your friends, "I'll see you at 8 o'clock," you're more apt to remember it. So we always did, if I'm like 2 steaks, 2 sea bass, and 2 Caesar, then you call that back exactly like that. You're more apt to remember it.
Okay.
So, but most of the time, everybody's gonna have a ticket in front of them. So they're gonna have tickets as well, or somebody on the inside might have tickets. So they're calling to the inside line. The outside's going, okay, we're gonna pick up table 37. Give me that, and they're kind of putting it together, and they're also talking to the servers. So the outside person doesn't always have to be the chef, is talking to the servers about, okay, this is seat 1, seat 3, or sometimes they know, everybody knows on a tray, this is seat 1, this is seat 3, and they're like looking at it, wiping it, making sure it's perfect.
Okay, so now that you have 2 restaurants that are on opposite sides of the city, Fort Point Channel and Kendall Square, what are you doing? Do you have a bike?
I do have a bike. As talking to a friend of mine, and he was talking to me about motion, and motion is waste. So I try to not move as much, right? So for me, I try to stay in one place all day.
Are you, okay, so you're not expediting?
No, at smoke shops?
Yes, okay, so
a little bit.
You're in the front office?
No, okay. I have no office. My office is just, you see me floating around. I just talk to people. I like to bus tables.
Is it your car? Is it the front seat of your car?
No, hopefully not, because again, I don't want to be motion. I want to stay in one place. So what you'll see me do is in the mornings, I'm answering emails. trying to kind of plan my day. But really, I'm trying to walk around, talk to my staff, making sure everything is where it should be. But that's not my role has changed a lot.
Right.
So where I used to be more boots on the ground, that's not as much my responsibility because I have other responsibilities. And management's job is to see the future. So my job is to plan for the future and to prepare the team for what's about to come. From simple things like tonight, right? I had to prepare my team for what I'm doing. So, we have we have something called a pit master, which is everything. You can order, you get everything on the menu pretty much. And we have a 40-person event going on tonight, 40 pit masters at Kendall. So we had to prepare the team for that. And that means last night we had to smoke more briskets and smoke more pork butts. And this morning smoke more ribs. So we had to make sure that everything's happening.
So the climate in Boston for hires is pretty sad. People tell me there are just not enough people to man the restaurants.
Yes.
On both sides, the back of the house and the front of the house. So how did you decide to open a second restaurant and get people to work there, especially in Kendall Square, where are you near a T or?
Yeah, we're near. You can walk Kendall Square T stop.
Okay.
And then we opened Assembly also, right, which is right near a T stop. We have over 200 employees.
Oh, you have a third one in Assembly now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. We just opened that July 2nd, and we hopefully will be opening up some more very soon this year.
And where are the people coming from?
I don't know.
To address that? Is this like the missing $170,000? It's going to just happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's hard. Hiring is hard, and I'm very happy the economy is doing well, and I think that's great. But there are people out there that are looking for jobs, and we provide a good job at a good pay, and we try to treat everybody with respect. I love what's happening in the industry now. I could tell you stories from Block Island when I worked there, which was, you guys, I mean, I can't tell you on NPR like what it's like, but I just can't tell you what happened because it was awful, and I loved every minute of it. But it's so cool where we're at now. I love, because when a chef's upset, like we're not happy either. And when you see a chef screaming, it's not fun. So
well,
like
the food's not happy.
No, you're absolutely right. And I, so for me, it's so awesome that we're really working on a wonderful place to work, and I think that's to me the most rewarding part about it. So if we get people, and when we do, we're always hiring. We bring them in and try to build them part of the team, part of the family.
So let's go to barbecue.
Yes.
The most important question is, because of the shirt that you wear, what is the connection between barbecue and gas stations?
I think the better question is, I'm going to answer your question, but I think the better question is what is going on with everybody else? Because the chefs are not wearing chef jackets anymore. They're all wearing like button downs, right? You guys see this? They're all, all wearing button downs. I don't understand why they're not wearing white jackets anymore. When I was a chef at a bistro, I wore a white jacket. It's messy. I mean, this is a great question, and I think we're both dealing with grease, right? They're dealing with car grease. I'm dealing with pig grease. So it's you can't wear white, and you want to wear this kind of like something dark to wear. And for me, it's a little bit Steve Jobby, right? Like I want to kind of just wear the same thing every day. It's easy for me. I want to have my logo.
And your name.
And my name, so I know who I am. So, no, so I don't really know, but for me, it's what I like to wear. You'll always see me wearing this. It makes my life a lot easier.
Okay, so now explain the difference between grilling and barbecue.
Oh my God, this is a great thing. It's simply, barbecue is generally slow and low, there are exceptions, over indirect heat using a hardwood or hardwood charcoal. Grilling is speed, high heat or moderate heat over direct. So indirect or direct is kind of your bare minimum.
That is a wonderful explanation. I have always wondered, and I've used them interchangeably, probably wrong all the time. Okay, so your barbecue team is called IQ Barbecue, IQUE
Yes.
Barbecue, BBQ. You've won championships all over the country,
Yes.
Including the prestigious Jack Daniel's World Championship.
Yes.
So let's start with a primer. What is a pitmaster?
Pitmaster is...
Which you call yourself.
Yes, I call
Okay.
myself pitmaster. And to be clear, I am not the pitmaster of IQ. Chris Hart is.
Okay.
He is in charge of our team. He is the... I like to say I'm like the Julian Edelman of the team. He's the Tom Brady. A pitmaster is somebody who, you know, who's done the reps, who's done the time to. It's like, I mean, you're kind of like asking me what's a chef, right?
Okay.
You could say my son goes to culinary school and he's a chef. Yes, I don't know, maybe.
Okay, so the pitmaster is running the show.
Running the show and has done the reps. You know, it's to me, it's somebody who yes runs the show and who's
And
done.
by reps, you mean has done this dish many times.
Who's done the 10,000 hours? Done the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours.
Okay, yes, at the grill. Okay, so
At the pit.
Okay, at the pit. Okay, so you talk in your books about flavor bomb competition style recipes.
Yes.
Does all meat at a championship need to scream umami in order to get the judges' attention?
Yes. So let's be clear. What I'm about to say is not what we do at my restaurants. My restaurants, it is all natural, prime meats. We do not do any goofy stuff to it. But for competitions, think of it as like Lance Armstrong, jacked full of stuff. And I'm not kidding, needled full of stuff. Okay. Sulfates, nitrites, MSG. If I can make something and put it in there, I will put it in there. It is legal. You show up with clean meats, they inspect your meats, and then you can do whatever you want to them. We got first place brisket out of 510 teams in Kansas City. Okay, kind of a big deal, right? To do that, they're taking one bite.
To do that, you have more instruments than a surgeon.
Yes, you're injecting and we take the skin off a chicken, we scrape out all the schmaltz, right? And then we use meat glue and glue the skin back on, right? I know. You're like, oh, meat glue. You have it all the time in your sushi when you have crab stick. Yeah, it really is a thing. So it's got to stand out. It has to stand out. A lot of times what we'll just do is take like a beef bouillon, right, which has MSG in it and salts and stuff, and you cook that down so it's like a liquid now, and we'll inject that into our beef. So it's like an ultimate beef flavor. Like you want them to take a bite and go, wow, that was amazing. 500 teams. How do you get first place?
Well, are the chefs tasting 500?
No, so it's the judges. This is the crazy part. There's basically a judge per team, so only 6 judges tried that food. And you go like, well, that sounds random. It's not random, because the same teams win all the time. So you want it's knowing the judges and different judges, but we know, and it's hard.
Who are the judges?
Could be anybody. If you want to go to nebs.org, Northeastern Barbecue Society, and become a judge, Kansas City Barbecue Society judge. It's just people that learn to be judges. It can be anybody. It could be a celebrity judge like yourself. Anybody you want.
When you decide that you're going to cook something at the competition, you're obviously taking into consideration that you're going to do all these injections and put everything in it. You've been to enough competitions so you know what the other guys, or do you take a walk around and see what everyone's cooking?
No, you don't know what. Everybody's in a tent, and you don't necessarily know, and they lie to you, and they try to get you drunk, and a lot of times they do is they'll take bottles of some kind of barbecue sauce, Sweet Baby Ray's. So they'll go to the store and they'll buy Sweet Baby Ray's. They'll empty that and they'll put their other sauce in there, but they'll let you think that they're using that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Deceptive.
So is nobody? I mean, it can be. You have to be careful. There's something called shugging. It's a barbecue term, and that's where they come and look at what you're doing and try to steal your ideas.
And they're just sort of stopping by to say,
hey, how's it going? What are you doing? Want some bourbon? I brought you some bourbon. Oh, what are you doing here?
And that's shugging.
Shugging.
I like that. Can use it in other contexts, I think.
Maybe, yeah.
So does Championship Barbecue always involve staying up all night?
These days, there's a lot of equipment that makes it so you don't have to stay up all night, and we do it in shifts. So we have guys who will stay up. Their shift will be, say, from 11 till 4 in the morning. I like to get up at 4 in the morning, so that would be my shift from 4 going on. Just depends. So when we were younger and we started competing, we would all stay up all night and drink too much. And but as we got better and wiser, we stopped drinking as much and started winning.
So people are sober in the morning.
Some of them are.
And how many people are on your team?
We have about 8 guys.
And do you all go together? Are you all from New England?
Yes, we're all from New England, but we don't all live in New England anymore. Yeah.
So are you taking big trucks?
When we used to compete, yeah, you have a truck and you have, smokers or pits that we're dragging behind and all sorts of gear, tents. I mean, you need a lot of stuff. It costs about, when we competed a lot, and we're not competing as much anymore, but it would cost $10,000 to $15,000 a year to compete.
And then what are you making if you win?
If you're real good, you're doing 20 to 30, maybe 1,000 you're pulling in, depends.
A year?
Yeah.
For 10,000 per contest?
No, you're doing like 15, 20 contests. So it costs you about $15,000 to operate, gas, lodging, equipment, food, and food you're cooking. Like you're buying Snake River Farms Wagyu briskets that cost $200 a pop.
So you're essentially buying prestige if you win.
Yeah, but no, if you win though, you're making, you can make your money back if not more.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely. But prestige, yeah, I mean, I don't get to open up 3 barbecue restaurants without winning the World Championships.
Okay, so let's get back to the meat glue.
Yes.
So you're winning chicken thighs, which use meat glue.
Yes.
You take off the skin, you scrape it, you dust on the meat glue. I like the line about don't inhale any.
Don't inhale any, don't get in your eyes.
But if you get it on your fingers, it's not going to stick your fingers together.
No, but it was developed by the military to heal cuts. It's a protein. It's an active protein. So it goes. It's put on so it cauterizes it basically.
Okay. So it's.
You've all eaten it. If you guys probably like that molecular stuff. It's all in there.
Well, it's a natural enzyme.
Yes.
Okay. So the 25 steps, it sort of seemed like a lot for a few chicken thighs. I mean, describe what else you're doing to them.
I mean, it's trimming, it's brining, it's injecting, it's scraping, it's dusting, and then it's how we smoke it. Then we kind of sort of braise it in margarine. Then we take it out and we dip it in sauce.
Oh yes, margarine. Why do you use margarine?
Oh, because it has this familiar kind of popcorn flavor to it, and it doesn't break. Margarine doesn't break like butter does.
Oh, interesting.
The solids, all this stuff. But this is so to be clear, right?
Yeah.
How do I say this? This is the World Championships. You think like 25 steps, it could be 100 steps. Any of you would kill to win the World Championships, trust me. If you were to be on that stage, you would do 1,000 steps. If I told you these 1,000 steps would do it, you'd do it. This is like the epitome of barbecue. Like you're talking to me about the Super Bowl. Like when I told you I'm like Julian Edelman, no joke. This is the Super Bowl.
Okay, I'm going to start taking this more seriously.
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Hey, give me a Tom, now come on. You really have to throw the ball that many times to win the Super Bowl? Yes. Just got to throw it.
Okay. So what about the negative press and there's science behind it about not consuming too many smoked meats?
Yes,
What
there
about?
is. Yes. Everything in moderation. I mean, honestly, and we talked about me losing weight, and I love barbecue. I really, really do. But I try to do everything in moderation. I don't know enough about this, but I know that you are right. And everything in moderation. Look, only come to me once a week. Once a week.
Is there such a thing as New England barbecue, or is everything an offshoot of Kansas City and North Carolina and Tennessee.
South. Sure.
That's
I'm going to say no.
Mhm.
And I had a huge conversation because this guy was trying to create some like New England rubs and stuff. Barbecue to me is about heritage and celebration.
Mhm.
Barbecue originated from Africa, came over with the slaves. If you imagine, like there was no. I'm going to try to do this very quickly. There was no refrigeration. Refrigeration's been around 50, 70 years. Like good refrigeration, right? So you had this pork butt. Nobody wanted the pork butt. It was stinky, and they threw it over fire while they worked the land and came back, and now it's falling apart. Still a little tepid, so they put a little vinegar and hot pepper, and now we have pulled pork. Like it's about history and family and celebration, and it came out of necessity, right? So it used the woods. That's why we see, mesquite from Texas, because that's where mesquite wood came from.
Right.
So there's all of that, and we don't have that. And that's okay, but so barbecue to me. There are different types of barbecue, but when you're talking to me about American barbecue, I'm talking about history and I'm talking about tradition.
Northerners seem to, this is sort of strange to me because I think of Southerners as drinking all that sweet tea.
Yes.
But Northerners have a sweet tooth for meat and also for cornbread, which Southerners say is cake.
Right.
Southerners called Northern cornbread cake. Is all that true? Do we have a sweeter tooth for meats?
I don't know, because we kind of celebrate all the styles, and you guys named a bunch of styles of barbecue, and I like them all, so we kind of serve them all. So the Memphis style is a little sweeter than, say, the North Carolina style, and the Texas style is just salt and pepper. But you were right about the cornbread, and my cornbread is very, very sweet, and it's the kind I like.
Quite good.
Yeah.
I like your cornbread a lot.
Thank you.
And what is your favorite meat to work with?
I like the brisket. The brisket's the hardest one to cook, so I love it. And just so we're clear, nobody cooks a brisket for themselves. This is the coolest thing about barbecue, is it's the friendliest food. You cook it for your family, you cook it for celebrations, you cook it for gatherings, right? I don't go, I'm going to cook a brisket today so I can eat it. No, that's a steak, right? I cook a steak. That's what's neat about barbecue. Barbecue's about fond memories. That's what's really neat about barbecue. When we talk about celebration and heritage, right? That's what barbecue's about.
What is the cut of brisket that you take to barbecue?
What do you mean?
Because there's like the top something.
The flat and the point.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Plate,
Exactly.
The plate and the decal.
Yes.
We use both. It's a packer cut. It's a 111. We use the whole thing. You actually have to use the whole thing when you're competing, and you want to, because the flat is dry. That's your lean. When you get lean pastrami or corned beef, that's the flat. And the other part's the not lean. But usually we'll turn in the point, which is the juiciest part, which is AKA the fattiest part.
And burnt ends come from brisket?
Come from traditionally from just like this little top guy that's on top, this little point of the point. But we would use all of it for burnt ends.
Are burnt ends something sort of recent, or have they always been around?
They've always been around. Kansas City's been serving them forever. But I will tell you, we used to serve burnt ends at East Coast Grill and Jake and Earl's in 1992, and they were a hard sell. And people were like, burnt, what is that? I don't want that. But now we sell them all day long.
Well, and burnt anything, really, today.
It is charred. Well, what's really neat is, and just the fact that you're here, is the food, and I've been watching Boston since the early 90s. It's so cool. Like, the consumer is so educated. Like, we would try to sell skirt steak at East Coast Grill, and people are like, what? I don't want that. Now it's like people love it, right? So it's like the consumer is so educated, because of that internet thing.
I read a recipe for something you wrote called cheese dizzle, which is your homemade version of Cheese Whiz. So can you tell us how you make that?
No. Yes. If I remember, it's condensed milk and Velveeta, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Your own Cheese Whiz.
Yes.
And I also read that you bake in a smoker.
Oh, yeah.
A smokin' butter cake.
Yes.
After you've been, well, I can't call it grilling anymore. So after you've been barbecuing.
Smoking,
sorry. aren't you like longing for something that has nothing to do with the smoker?
So
something sort of refreshing and sliced oranges or watermelon or something?
No, I mean, so that recipe is created for a competition. That recipe, so when you're on a competition, that's all you have to use. You don't have ovens, so you have to create stuff to cook in a smoker. So that's what that recipe is for. But yes, after a barbecue competition, all we want to do is eat like sushi or a salad. That is what you want for days.
Okay, that's what I would want. You also write about cooking. I was very interested in this. I can't wait to make it. Jerk chicken in a clay flower pot.
Yes.
So I imagine that clay flower pots are just like a tagine or
like a tandoori.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense. Are you putting a little fire at the bottom?
Yeah, coals. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you need to put it somewhere where, or unless you have a saucer, you've got a little hole at the bottom of the flower pot.
Yeah, but we would just put it like on the ground, like on rocks or something like that. Yeah.
And then how do you make a rack to go inside the flower pot?
It just goes atop. You lay skewers or something across the top of it.
Very clever.
Nice.
So it's just really a wonderful idea.
When you're competing, you have to figure out, you're only allowed to use wood or charcoal, and you're not allowed to use any ovens, and you have to figure out how to like make a grill or how to do stuff sometimes. So that's what we would do.
And you also write that you don't like gas grills, so bear with me here.
Yes.
Lots of people have them. I read in your book that you can put something on a gas grill, and you explain this makeshift system of hot-cold, so you're cooking indirectly. And while you're waiting for the food to cook, go to the internet and buy yourself a real smoker. So I'm not going to tell you what I own. I own a couple of grills, different kinds. So when you use a gas grill, just asking for a friend, you'd say to put wet wood chips into heavy-duty foil, prick the foil all over, and put it onto the hot side.
Yes.
And then cook the food on the
That's for smoking in a grill.
Right.
So the only reason that recipe's in there is because our publisher made us.
Oh, well,
so
I told her.
Our publisher, because you want to sell a book to a lot of people. You don't want to sell it to just the people with the wood grills. But I don't know where you shop, but I'm going to take a guess. Whole Foods or Russo's, right? And so you shop at these great places and you buy these great foods. And then you go home and you turn on your gas grill and you put it on because you don't care, right? Like people should care about by the way, there are some really, really good gas grills now that get really, really hot. And if you're using them, great. But the whole deal with cooking, and I should have said about your definition of grill, it's high heat. Grilling, unless you're slow grilling or low grilling, but really it's about high heat. It's about that Maillard, my French is awful, like caramelization, right? It's built into our DNA. Like if you wonder why people like grilled food, it's because our ancestors have done this forever, right? And so that's what you get. And the reason I love it is why people are like, well, I don't have to clean up. I don't have to clean my grill, and that's why I don't use a charcoal. Or it takes too long to get hot. It takes 10, 15 minutes. When are you, unless you have kids, and I get it, but besides that, when do you have to eat in 10 minutes? Why do we have to do that? And so like, it doesn't make sense to me. I see what people sell at Whole Foods. I see how expensive those meats are, and then they go home and they like, just turn on the gas grill and like, well, okay, well, this is okay. Like, let's go for it. I'm sorry, I know.
Okay.
I probably just offended a lot of you, I apologize.
No. How do you clean a gas grill?
A gas grill or charcoal?
A grill. How do you clean the grates?
Get it hot and then scrub it, just like that, really easily.
But there's been some consumer reporting that the bristles on the little metal brush can loosen, and
yes.
You can serve them.
Yes.
And kill someone.
Yes, and you can also cross the street and get hit by a bus.
Okay.
There's a guy, though, who sent it to me, and there's a wood grill, a wood scraper. I can't remember his name, but he just sent it to me in the mail, and you can use a wood. Yes, yeah. So here's what I do.
Okay.
I scrape my thing with my metal brush, and then I take a side towel that I don't care about, and I spray it with oil, or I dip it olive oil, and then I scrub that again. So I make sure I get any kind of like foreign objects off it. I have a big green egg, but I also have some other ones, Traeger's, but a big green egg. And then, every once in a while I come out there with my wet vac and just vacuum it out. It's great, it's easy.
Okay, I'm not reading my email while I'm talking to you.
I'll keep talking.
You're going to submit questions to Slido, and we're going to look at those in a minute. What restaurants do you like to go to in Boston?
Awesome question. Sarma. Boom. Love Sarma. Whaling in Oklahoma. Tim Maslow is a wacky creative genius. I love him.
Did he took over your Tremont spot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he did. And I really like what he's doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let me just think about neighborhoods and where I like to go. I love anchovies in the South End. Always have, always will. Island Creek. Row 34, that group can do no wrong. I love Garrett and Jeremy. I think they're really, really talented.
Eastern Standard is part of that.
Yeah,
French
Eastern
Line and
Standard,
Watertown.
yeah, absolutely. Just trying to go through neighborhoods here. Sportella, I happen to pop over there for lunch a fair amount. It's across the street from one of my restaurants, so I go there. I think that's, I like Pocari's. That's near my house in Stoneham.
Mm-hmm. And how many barbecue tattoos do you have?
I have no idea. A lot. A fair amount. A lot. A lot.
Can you just hold out your right hand, even though people can't see it? Just point to what's on.
I got a cow, Technicolor cow. This is a pig that says Igpay. You get that? Thank you. That's a goat and a rooster.
Okay. We're going to play a little game I'm calling buy or sell.
Okay.
And you just tell me buy or sell for each of these things.
Okay.
We might have discussed one or two of them already, but commercial barbecue sauce.
Sell.
Charcoal briquettes, the only ones you could get at your vacation house.
Buy.
Commercial dry spice rubs.
Commercial dry spice. Buy.
Chef's toque.
You mean the hat?
Yes, the tall hat.
Buy.
Wine with your barbecue.
Buy. Especially if it's bubble. I love champagne with my barbecue.
The set of tools that come with your Weber.
Buy.
Luxury backyard barbecues, the ones that cost $10,000.
Buy it for me. Sell. Get a Weber. Get a big green egg.
Homemade barbecue rigs in steel barrels.
Buy.
Liquid smoke.
Sell all day long.
Granulated garlic.
Buy.
MSG.
Buy.
Lighter fluid.
Sell.
Bud Light.
Buy.
Okay. Okay, now we're going to take your questions, and we'll see what you have here. Okay. Here's a question. In Texas, many barbecue shops only serve lunch because it's best fresh. How do you ensure your barbecue, especially brisket, is fresh when serving lunch and dinner?
Yeah, in Texas, the rent is like $9 a square foot. Too. This is the fond memory thing, right? This is great. Well, there's a reason why I never opened a barbecue restaurant before, and I did now. It's because there's a magic oven called a CVAP that's made by Winston Industries. It's created for Kentucky Fried Chicken, and it can hold Kentucky Fried Chicken crispy and juicy for a day. And it's really neat, and this is what we use, these special ovens. And we cook fresh all the time. So tonight they're gonna cook 12 briskets, and at 6 in the morning tomorrow, they're gonna fire 12 more, and those will be ready for the dinner. So we're always kind of cooking, always trying to make sure it's fresh. We'll cook ribs
And
3
what
times a day.
temperature are they sitting at? Do you know?
Well, what temperature do we
Hold them, yeah.
It's about 150, but it has this 150, 165. It kind of varies, but it has this wind speed thing. They're so complicated, and I can't explain to you. The best way to explain them is they are magic. But you can, this is
and they're huge.
No, they're small. This is the bonkers thing, and I don't do this, but I'm told, and I really don't do this, is you can keep chicken in there at 140 degrees for days. And you're like, well, that sounds like it's going to be gross. It pasteurizes because of the wind speed. It's wacky. These are wacky. Read about them. Winston Industries.
Okay. Will you do chefs competitions at the Smoke Shop? We love them at 6:40.
Oh yeah, no, I did love those too. Those the tapas challenge were awesome. Maybe someday something. I do have dreams of having a barbecue competition in Boston, but not like that. Those were fun though. Thank you. I love them.
Who are your competitors in the Boston area, and are you friends with your competition?
Well, my biggest competition is a fond memory. That's what we compete against. It's growing up. I grew up in, this is someone speaking to me, I grew up in North Carolina and I had this barbecue. It's like, that's what I'm competing against. You know, you name it, there's not that many. You know, Tiffany, and I love Tiffany. She's super talented and Sweet Cheeks is awesome. So
this is Tiffany Faison.
Yeah, so if she's my competition, hooray. Right, like, and Red Bones is awesome. Robert is a great guy. He's been around forever. Blue Ribbon. Those guys used to work for me at Jake and Earl. So, competition is I don't care. Like, it just should be competition. That's I think a good thing. And all those people are great, and I wish them the very best.
Good. If you're doing a cookout with friends and family on a weekend, what's on the menu?
Cookout. So we're talking barbecue. I mean, I don't know. I mean, so last summer, I mean, I cook out all the time. So. You know, I have a big green egg, so I do pizzas, but I know this weekend is my daughter's birthday, and I know I'm doing brisket. That was requested by my family, so I'm doing brisket, ribs, whatever. I don't do a lot of American barbecue at my house, but I am this weekend.
Okay, do the one-year-olds eat brisket?
They will. They're going to eat brisket and cake.
Okay. It's really hard to find prime brisket in the Boston area. Can you recommend a local butcher for home smokers?
Check out with Ronnie over at Savano's, maybe. I'm sure he can get it for you. People buy it from...
Duloc in Somerville.
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he would have prime, and everything is within 50 miles, right? So,
okay.
So I would be surprised if he even had a brisket, if he would sell it to you. Most competitors are going to get their stuff from Costco or BJ's. They go through and they'll find that's where they get it from.
And then inject it with MSG. When you smoke at home, what equipment, egg Weber, offset, and fuel, charcoal, wood, etc., do you use or recommend?
Again, buy my book. WSM, Weber Smoky Mountain, if you want to, that's the best for your money. It's $300 delivered to your door. Order it right now from Amazon.
Is it a Weber brand?
Yeah, it's a Weber product. And it's a vertical smoker. It's awesome. I have that. I have an Onyx, which is a refrigerator-style door, and I really like refrigerator-style one I like. I've been fooling around with drum cookers, and this is where I kind of alluded to hot and fast. So I can cook a brisket in 8 hours in this thing. I'm still practicing with it, but it's a drum, and the fire's in the bottom, and it's crazy. I can't even explain to you how it works, but those are really super cool.
How long does it take to train a new pitmaster to be able to run smokers?
Wow. Because it's not just like, oh, it's 202 degrees, let's serve it. So it takes 6 months till I feel comfortable, I think. So I know that we're training this week, and I have to be somewhere at 6 in the morning on Thursday to double check on some stuff, so it takes a while.
So that reminds me of something else I wanted to ask you. You wrote in one of your books that there was a whole group of newbies who were grilling, and you thought that they had gone onto the internet to see how to win a contest, and of course they failed miserably. And I'm wondering, what does a newbie do that is so wrong at a competition?
Oh my God, there's 1,000 things. I'll tell you that we get beat all the time by our book. Because in my Wicked Good Barbecue book, don't buy it unless you really want to go nuts, get Pitmaster. But Wicked Good Barbecue is like, we put the recipes of how we won the world championships, and they're really hard recipes. That brisket recipe is a 2,000 word recipe. Average recipe is like 400 words. They'll follow our recipes and actually beat us with our own recipes. But we can tell, newbies, it's everything from wacky ingredients, they'll use soy sauce, and honestly, you kind of need to stick traditional, to we can look at their smoke and see their smoke is the wrong color and they're burning the wrong thing or the wrong time and stuff, so there's all sorts of things.
So you're actually smoking and there's live fire inside a tent?
Yeah, it's like an easy up. So it's not like a circus tent.
I see. Okay, it's just a lean-to thing.
Yeah, no, it's like just it's got no walls. It's just
okay. There's a common debate with pitmasters around whether or not to smoke fat cap up or down. Which do you prefer?
We always
You should probably say what a fat cap is. And
Yeah, just saying it's the fat that's on top and
of the brisket.
Of the brisket, and it does not make it self-basting. That is not really what's happening. But we would always cook it fat up. That's kind of how it's meant to be cooked. But if you're talking about for competitions, the way we trim it, we almost separate the two, the plate and the decal. We almost separate them and trim out all the fat to make them so they cook more evenly. But and then wrapping, which they call the Texas crutch, we'll do that also, and that helps it stay juicy. Again, all in my book.
How has social media changed the way you market your restaurants in Boston?
Social media, 8% or less, 5% of my referrals come through social media. So it's people.
Yes, of course you can track it now.
Yeah, and people think like, people love those likes, and I do, of course, great. But is it really? I'm not convinced that it really helps. In fact, I know people who have thousands of followers and yet their restaurants don't survive. So that isn't necessarily because I've got 5,000 followers maybe or something like that. It doesn't mean that I'm good or bad at my job. It just means I have people that like to look at what I do. It's important, and I like it, and I like Yelp, right? So because you don't get.
You do.
I love Yelp. I like Yelp.
Restaurateurs hate Yelp.
Oh no, they're wrong. So here's the thing: when we were young, we were told if they didn't like your restaurant, they told 7 people, and if they did like your restaurant, they told 3. That's what I was told when I was in school. So then that's true. Okay, that's a study. So they don't like it, they tell 7 people. So you knew they were out there saying S about you. You just didn't know what. Now we get to read it, and it's people are like, no restaurant's ever gone out of business because of Yelp. No, none of the restaurants ever gone out of business because of Yelp. Yelp is a mirror. Yelp is a reflection. Right? So you got to be, yes, it's a little snarky and it's hard to read and when someone hates you, but what's neat about it in Twitter too and all those things is you get a chance to have a conversation with them. My job is to respond to every Google review that I get. I respond to every single one. And I'm behind about a week, so don't get on me that I've missed a couple, but I'll get to them. And if someone gives us 3 stars or less, I'm like, let's talk, let's do this, let's get you back in.
Wouldn't you rather, if somebody had a bad experience, wouldn't you rather the person called the manager over and
It's hard for me to tell you I don't like you. And I like you. But you know what I'm saying? It's people are like, yes, please tell us. But look, you're having a dinner with your family, it's a celebration. You don't want to complain. You just but you're a little bummed. So you want yeah, it would be nice, but they're not going to always. Yeah, I'll tell you the secret of the restaurants. It's all money back guarantee. Whatever restaurant you go to, it should be money back guarantee. If you came to my restaurant and you didn't like it, you're going to get it for free.
That's
all restaurants.
That's very unusual.
No, that's not true. That's all restaurants.
No, it's not.
Go to Sarma tonight and say, I don't like my food. They're going to be like, we won't charge you.
It's an elite few. It's not.
I beg to differ. I think
I'd be
any
rich
restaurant
if I'd be rich if I had all the money back from bad meals.
Yeah, but that's if you were to say something, I can't imagine people would charge you. Why? You can return an empty container to Whole Foods and say, I didn't like this. Here's the empty thing.
You can take your dry cleaning back to Whole Foods.
Yes.
Okay, we just have a few more quick questions.
Yes.
Ever make goat or lamb in the pit?
Oh yeah, of course. The problem with those is they're very lean, so you have to be careful because they do dry out.
Do you watch food shows on TV, and what are your favorites?
I've been watching Ugly Delicious, and I'm not sure I like it. I like most of it. Yeah, I don't care for Chef's Table. It's not my scene. It's too precious.
Have you done any cannabis-infused smokes? And if yes, can you share the experience?
No, I have no interest. It's not. I don't know anything about that stuff. It's not really. I know it's trendy. It's just not interesting to me. If we're talking about the actual stuff that gets you high, like why? It doesn't make sense to me.
You're a dad. You're a new dad.
Yeah.
Good.
If I was 20, I mean, that's different, right?
Yes. So thank you all for coming out in this terrible night that actually turned out to be quite beautiful. And Andy has brought some food for you to have, and I want you to tell them what's outside.
Yes. Before I do that, and don't go nuts. Just wait till we start to leave, okay? but somewhere underneath two of your seats is a piece of tape. Don't look now. But there is two pieces of tape out there that say the Smoke Shop on it. You'll know when you find it. They're underneath your seat. Whoever brings those two pieces of tape to me, I have 2 cookbooks for you. So, you're welcome.
Very generous.
So, and I'll sign it for you. It's Pitmaster. Yeah, so we have ribs, wings, and cornbread, sweet cornbread.
Good. Okay. Thank you. This was lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oops.
What God is about doing, revealing himself as truth. And if we superimpose our beliefs on him, we're asking him to deny himself as truth.